Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 183. Without any delay, start explanation. The comfort that came from lying on a bed made her relax. She instinctively covered herself with the blanket. Her nose made sniffing sounds as if she was smelling something. Then, her peaceful face reflected a contented expression as she fell into a deep sleep. As he looked at her sleeping, Eugeniu felt a sudden emotion welling up within his heart. He carefully tucked her in and caressed her wisps of silky hair. Only then did he move silently over to the sofa and lay down there. When she wakes up tomorrow, she won't be keeping me company anymore. However, I won't let her tire herself out. If she can't keep me company, then I'll keep her company. He appeared pleased after thinking that thought. He closed his eyes and fell asleep shortly. Guu lay flat on the bed as she could not sleep. She only stared silently at the ceiling and had no intention of cultivating either. She was not even sure why. She was filled with anxiety and felt restless. Tomorrow would be the finals, and he would be facing Long Yu. She knew him too well. Even if he knew he was no match for Long Yu, he would still fight with all his might. He might even fight harder than Eugeniu. At a critical time like this, she had delivered him a devastating blow. Actually, she knew that she should have done this way back. After all, there would be situations that they had to face together in the future. Such a day would come sooner or later. However, she had convinced herself that it was still early, and there was no need for her to rush. However, with the passing of time, they grew up. Similarly, their strengths grew as well. The days passed, and it was getting progressively difficult for her to make a decision. Sigh? Guu thought gloomily. Maybe this was fated to be. Where in the world did his bloodline come from? It seemed that they were destined to meet in this whole wide universe. This was also the case for Enea. What if it's the will of the gods? There was a silver flash in Guu's eyes. If the gods forbade us to continue, I'll do away with them. She sat up abruptly. Suddenly, the conversation between the two people that day reverberated in her mind. In other words, the reason why you're close to me was because my bloodline is related to yours. You can put it that way. Really? Yes, really. I understand now. Guu. What? If you're saying that you've been close to me initially because of my bloodline, then, what about now? Is it still the case now? It is. The words spoken that day seemed to have lingered in her ears. Guu felt intense pangs of guilt in her heart. She was feeling overwhelmed. Let's put in more effort for tomorrow's competition. Early in the morning. In the wee hours of the day, Tang Wulin was on the balcony cultivating his purple demon eyes. Later, he freshened up and changed into a clean set of Shrek Academy's dark green uniform. Breakfast was as usual. In fact, he ate more than he normally would. All his comrades were present and everyone's gaze was upon him. Shulishi, whose appetite was similar to his, had eaten a lesser amount today. Why are you all looking at me? Lishi, eat up. Why aren't you eating today? Tang Wulin had just grabbed another bun. He tore the bun into half and wedged a few large pieces of meat in it. Then, he began to chomp it down. I say, Captain, aren't you feeling even a little nervous? Eugeniu could not restrain his curiosity any longer as he posed the question. Tang Wulin shrugged. Why should I feel nervous? This is not Doluo continent. Besides, the entire population of Star Luo thinks that I'll lose. I'm a 4-ring going against a 6-ring. Will it be embarrassing if I lost? I don't think so. So, why should I feel nervous? Yi Xinglan looked at him with keen bright eyes. You're thinking of giving up. Tang Wulin met her gaze and smiled faintly. The glory of Shrek isn't secured by victory alone. Fresh blood will do as well. After he said this, there was silence at the dining table. Yi Xinglan lowered her head. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have doubted you. Tang Wulin smiled faintly. Everyone, eat up. I'll eat more too. We can only gain more strength by eating more, no? Gu sat beside him like she usually did. When she saw the smile on his face, she could not restrain herself from saying, "Don't push yourself too hard." Tang Wulin glanced at her. "I'm not pushing myself. As a matter of fact, there's nothing to push. Finish up eating, quickly." Xie laughed. "Captain, your behavior is capricious. Everybody, finish up quick." He had no stress in him initially. So, let's not rile him up. "Captain, you must do your best. In case you win by accident, you may even get a kiss." As he said this, he looked at Gu, then he looked at Tang Wulin. He had a sneer on his face. Tang Wulin said angrily, "You're always the garrulous one. Eat up quickly. In any case, I won't allow myself to be carried back by a woman." Xie's expression changed. He was blushing a little. "That's nothing. It's the same regardless of who's carrying whom. Besides, she's an assault system whereas I'm an agility system. We've been different since birth." Yu Jingyu smiled. "I heard that you now have a better understanding since that day. It seems that you've become even more shameless than before." Xie sneered. "I can't even compare with you in terms of shamelessness. You acted as if you can't get off the bed yesterday, but you're shamelessly sitting here, brimming with energy. Can Big Brother not comment about Second Brother? Xiaoyan, you must be really careful when you befriend someone who thinks he's an Adonis. It's difficult to tell their true colors." Xu Xiaoyan's delicate face blushed, but she did not make a sound. Currently, her heartbeat was faster than usual. When she opened her eyes that morning, she realized that she had been sleeping on Yu Jingyu's bed. His aura filled the blankets, but she felt that she had slept with additional security. In the morning, she was too embarrassed to face Yu Jingyu. After she woke up, she ran back to her room. However, before she left, she threw the blanket on Yu Jingyu who was lying on the sofa. "Xie." Yu Jingyu glared at him with gritted teeth. Xie chuckled. "Don't lose your temper from being embarrassed." Yu Jingyu snorted and said, "Anyway, I'm better than you. I don't think you even have half a chance. You won't be able to defeat our class monitor in this lifetime." Xie glanced at Yuan and Yehui, but Yuan and Yehui ignored both of them. She was minding her own business and eating her breakfast. "One day, I'm sure I'll be able to defeat her. You'd better believe it. I've already understood the true essence of the agility system." When he saw both of them bickering, a faint smile could be seen on Tang Wulin's lips. He liked the feeling very much. Being together with his comrades all day long brought the rich feeling of being part of a family. This was what he enjoyed the most. "If everyone's full, let's be on our way." Tang Wulin stood up and stretched his limbs. The bones of his entire body made cracking sounds. He exuded an aura that was filled with the vigor of the sun, which made his comrades feel the same way. He was vibrant and full of vitality. He was like a sleeping dragon that had just awakened and was stretching its body. A soul car was already waiting for them outside. Today was the finals of the solo competition. To prevent unforeseen complications and also to ensure the contestants arrived at the competition grounds on time, the official committee had dispatched private cars to pick them. This match was regarded as the ultimate showdown between Monster Academy and Shrek Academy. All the contestants from both academies could enter the waiting area to watch the match. The 8 of them got into the car. The Soul car started its engine. With security vehicles sandwiching them at the front and back, they headed straight to Star Luo Coliseum. When the cars faded into the distance, a figure appeared silently in front of the entrance to the Royal Star Luo Hotel. As usual, Wu Zhongkong was covered in white. At present, he had a faint glow flickering in his eyes. "Wulin, do your best." Today, Star Luo Coliseum was not the only place that was swarming with people. It was packed like sardines even outside the Coliseum. Every nice spot from which one could view the giant screen outside the Coliseum was occupied. In order to get those spots, many of them were there the day before. Some of them had even set up camps. To observe a match such as this at a close range, the citizens of Star Luo Empire went out of their way to secure a spot with a good view. Everyone wanted to witness the victory of Monster Academy. This match was extremely important for the entire Star Luo Empire. The interior of the Colosseum was already crowded with spectators. On the platform, the Emperor of Star Luo Empire Dai Qianling, the President of Monster Academy ENCI, the leader of Doluo Continent's representative team Tang Bingyao, and, last but not least, the President of Shrek Academy's Outer Court Elder Cai had all been waiting since early morning. Initially, Elder Cai was unwilling to come for the competition. However, he could not turn down the compelling invitation of Star Luo Empire's officials. Without a doubt, there was definitely a political motive behind this. In the end, Elder Cai chose to come. In today's match, no one had any positive thought for Tang Wulin. In any case, it was still the finals match. After all, it signified a clash between the two renowned academies in this year's grand competition. The contestants from Shrek Academy and Monster Academy entered the waiting area at about the same time. As soon as both parties were in the waiting area, the entire spectators' stand went into a frenzy and erupted into wild cheers and applause. The audience was yelling the names of Monster Academy and Long Yu, and the ambience was so heated that it was like the eruption of a volcano. The contestants from Monster Academy wore their traditional red school uniforms. Amidst the contestants, the others had all sat down except for Dai Yuna, who stood there fuming and stared angrily at Tang Wulin. Naturally, Tang Wulin saw her too. He smiled at her, exposing his clean white teeth. The weather was splendid today as sunlight fell right onto the waiting area. Under the sun's rays, the faintly smiling Tang Wulin was resplendent. His handsome face and warm smile had captured Dai Yuna's attention against her own will. Even the flames of anger within her heart had died down. Silence, a deep and grave voice sounded. It was broadcasted throughout the entire Colosseum via Seoul loudspeakers. The voices of 100,000 spectators were surprisingly muffled by it. Now, we'll invite His Majesty to deliver his speech. Dai Qianling stood up. A Seoul loudspeaker rose in front of him. Every time I watch the Continental Young High-Ranking Seoul Masters Elite competition, I feel as though I've been transported back to the days of my youth. I was a participant once, and I obtained some impressive results. Young people should be filled with vigor and a strong drive. They should be fighting with all their effort because this generation belongs to passionate youths like all of you. Being young allows for mistakes, and being young does not fear failures. For those of you who are young, you only need to find your objective and go forward courageously. It is with great honor that we have invited the representative team of Shrek Academy from the faraway Doluo continent, a place which was once our home as well, for this year's grand competition. Shrek Academy is regarded as the best academy on Doluo continent. A history of more than 20,000 years has allowed them to nurture countless outstanding talents. I am very happy that I am able to witness this final match between our Monster Academy's contestant Long Yu and Shrek Academy's contestant Tang Wulin. Regardless of the outcome, it will inevitably strengthen the friendship between us and the Doluo Continent Federation. The victor of today's match will not only get the reward of a soul bone, but also an additional prize from the Empire. If contestant Long Yu obtains victory, he will be bestowed the title Viscount. If contestant Tang Wulin obtains victory, we will reward him with a certain amount of resources. Of course, if he is willing to become a citizen of Star Luo Empire, he will similarly be bestowed with the title of Viscount. When he reached the end of his speech, Dai Qianling could not help but showed a big smile on his face. We welcome all outstanding talents. Without further ado, I hereby declare that the final match of the solo competition in the Continental Young High-Ranking Seoul Masters Elite competition begins now. There were thunderous applause and tremendous cheer from the audience. This was the charisma of an emperor. Captain, a Viscount. Are you moved? Xie asked Tang Wulin softly while nudging him. Tang Wulin rolled his eyes. Step aside. As he said this, he stood up. On the other side, Long Yu had also stood up. He glanced at Tang Wulin. Then, he strode toward the competition stage with a smile on his face. Loud exhilarating music was blaring away. The skies above the Colosseum suddenly darkened. By what means, no one knew for sure. Two beams of light from the skies shone on Tang Wulin and Long Yu. The lights guided them both forward. They ascended the competition stage at the same time. They walked to their respective sides. There were a few hundred meters between them as they faced each other. Fang's voice resounded throughout the Colosseum. I believe everyone has been looking forward to this match for a long time. So have I. This will be an interesting match. First off, I'll briefly summarize the background of these two contestants. Contestant Tang Wulin is from Shrek Academy. His soul power is within the range of rank 42 and 45. His martial soul is blue-silver grass. I've researched in detail all similar martial souls, but I couldn't find any martial soul that was identical to his. It's unique, and also very powerful. At the same time, he also possesses a powerful dragon-type bloodline. That bloodline of his seemed to have a stunning effect on martial souls of the same type, while simultaneously enhancing his own body. The power of his bloodline resembles a soul ring which gives him his abilities. Again, such a condition is rarely seen in the history of soul masters. Fanga had obviously done much homework for her commentary, especially on her analysis of Tang Wulin. It was meticulous and thorough. On the other hand, her analysis on Long Yu was simple and short. In a nutshell, today's match in terms of strength is not balanced between the two contestants. We'll just have to see if contestant Tang Wulin's bloodline ability can generate enough suppression on contestant Long Yu, who has a dragon-type martial soul. Only then will contestant Tang Wulin have a chance of defeating his opponent. It seems both contestants have made their preparations. The final showdown of the young generation of the continents begins now. All attention shifted to the competition stage. Currently, the soul shield was sealed. The darkness in the skies vanished and there was sunlight on the competition stage again. The sun's rays shone on both Long Yu and Tang Wulin. The referee was an elderly person. His aura was contained, but as he was chosen to be the match's referee, he was obviously a famous soul master expert in Star Luo continent. The rules of this match are the same as the previous matches. Counting down from 10. It was the final match. The duration of the countdown seemed longer than the other matches. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, begin. At the sound of the word begin, Tang Wulin made the first move. He did not even pause for a second. He was already charging toward Long Yu like a cannonball. Two golden soul rings rose from beneath his feet. He was like an arrow that had just been released from the bow. The faint smile that was on Tang Wulin's face vanished the instant he began his attack. His eyes had turned golden and they shone brilliantly with a golden light as his domineering air increased rapidly, followed by an intense airflow bursting forth from his body. Golden scales surfaced and covered his entire body. The first golden soul ring on his body lit up instantly. It was Golden Dragon Body. His pair of golden dragon claws glowed unsteadily with golden light under the infusion of his bloodline power. Throughout his forward charge, Tang Wulin was increasing his momentum. It seemed like there was another giant dragon on the competition stage which pushed forward toward Long Yu. Long Yu stood at his spot. He did not move forward to challenge Tang Wulin. He only stared at Tang Wulin with keen sparkling eyes. He did not even display the intention to unleash his martial soul. When Tang Wulin charged past the center of the stage, only then did he unleash a powerful aura from his body. The giant dragon's illusory shadow which had appeared when he fought Yu Jingyu appeared behind him now. The dragon which carried an entire city on its back stretched its body and released a deep roar. When he heard the roar of the Mountain Dragon King, Tang Wulin was not affected in the least. Golden light shone brightly on his body and he released a dragon's roar toward the skies. Compared to the deep dragon's roar of the Mountain Dragon King, Tang Wulin's dragon roar was high-pitched and excited. The bloodline aura within his body was unleashed without reserve. At the same time, he skipped steps, sped up, and leaped abruptly. The forceful bounce sent him tens of meters into the air. Long Yu's expression changed slightly. Amidst Tang Wulin's dragon's roar, the giant dragon's illusory shadow behind him had surprisingly flickered. It had weakened noticeably in its imposing manner. On the platform, President Enci, who initially had a calm gaze, suddenly sat up straight. He had an incredulous look on him. He knew the legend of the Mountain Dragon King very well. In his opinion, Long Yu, with his possession of the pure Mountain Dragon King martial soul, should have been the best among all the dragon-type martial souls in the world. Even the other true dragon martial souls could never compare with the aura of the dragon god's child. However, after the collision of auras just now, Long Yu's Mountain Dragon King martial soul was clearly at a disadvantage. Not only did it not affect Tang Wulin's martial soul, it was affected by Tang Wulin's bloodline aura instead. How was this possible? What was this martial soul that Tang Wulin possessed? Why was it so powerful? Nobody knew the answer because nobody had any idea what it was. This was true even for Long Yu himself. He had initially thought that Tang Wulin's bloodline power was the Overlord Dragon which possessed the Golden Dragon King bloodline. No matter how powerful the Overlord Dragon was, it would have possessed only a small portion of the Golden Dragon King bloodline. After all, it was not even a true dragon. Even if its strength reached the rank of a true dragon, in terms of aura, it could never compare with his own Mountain Dragon King martial soul. But after the collision, he realized that he had been completely wrong. Amazingly, the power of the bloodline aura from Tang Wulin had completely suppressed his own aura. How did this happen? Could it be that his bloodline aura originated from the Light Dragon King which was passed down from the Dragon God? Only the aura of the Light Dragon King was golden. But the aura of light was not exactly blazing on his body. Even if it was the Light Dragon King, it should not have subdued his aura. The Mountain Dragon was a king. After many sacrifices, the Mountain Dragon King was the last one to be created, but it was definitely not inferior to any of the other Dragon Kings. At the very least, it would not have been inferior in terms of bloodline aura. Long Yu had never thought that there would be anyone who could overwhelm him with their bloodline aura. What's more, the suppression was distinct. But he was not in fear the way Sima Xian had been. Nevertheless, he still felt the pressure on his body. This kind of pressure was imparted by a person of higher rank to a person of lower rank. How is this possible? How could this even be possible? The only thing that could absolutely suppress his own dragon-type bloodline was from the dragon god. Nonetheless, how could a dragon god's bloodline appear in a human? It was just impossible. The aura on his body was definitely not the aura of the dragon god. At the same time, Long Yu was shocked, and Tang Wulin, who had leaped up, was at his highest point in the air. He spread his arms beside him. The pair of giant hammers which he had used to face the Tiger King Dai Yuyang appeared in his hands again. Tang Wulin raised his arms and descended from the sky with a forceful momentum. The pair of giant hammers dropped down boldly. A series of explosions blasted through the air. Wherever the giant hammers passed, the surrounding space seemed distorted. This was truly horrendous. Could this power be achieved by humans? The same thought surfaced in the minds of the audience. Even if it was a mecha, it would still have difficulty dealing with such a pair of giant hammers. Were these the battle strategy and secret weapon Tang Wulin had prepared against Long Yu? Fortunately, he had deployed them when he fought the Tiger King in the previous match, otherwise, the Dragon King would be hard-pressed today. The giant hammers dropped toward his head. Long Yu lifted his head instinctively. The suppression of his bloodline was getting more distinct the closer Tang Wulin got to him. Currently, Long Yu entered into a meditative state. He gave a low yell. 6 circles of soul rings rose from beneath his feet and protected him from all sides. Shortly after, his body expanded and swelled up to the size of a lofty mountain. A giant tail appeared behind him. Tall mountains. Long Yu shouted in a low pitch. He directed his palms toward the skies, and a towering mountain suddenly shot toward the skies. It was not a real mountain at all, but at that moment, the mountain as it appeared on the competition stage could not be more real. Boom! The deafening sound of an explosion erupted and the landscape shattered. Tang Wulin was sent flying by the force. Long Yu's imposing demeanor, which had been suppressed, turned domineering once more. His terrifying suppressing aura was targeted at Tang Wulin. There was fear within Tang Wulin. His shock was in no way less than Long Yu's. When he had faced Dragon-type martial soul masters before, his opponents could not even unleash half of their strengths. When he thought that Long Yu's bloodline would also be suppressed by his, he had secretly rejoiced. There was at least a ray of hope when all the conditions in the battle had pointed to an impossible win for him. However, it seemed that in the blink of an eye, Long Yu had enlightened him with his actions that even bloodline suppression could not narrow down the difference in their strengths. The unleashing of the Mountain Dragon King martial soul had effectively reduced the effects of Tang Wulin's bloodline aura on him. As a result of Long Yu's innate strength and the difference in power between his martial soul aura and Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon King bloodline was not much, the suppression effect on him was not strong enough to influence the outcome of the battle. On the other hand, Tang Wulin could feel that Long Yu was exerting an extremely powerful pressure on him. However, the influence of his Golden Dragon King bloodline aura had negated half of the effect. I still have a chance. Tang Wulin's eyes lit up. He raised the giant hammers in his arms and charged toward Long Yu again. Long Yu's swollen body had currently given him a height of more than 10 meters. His body was filled with an awesome sense of power. As he faced Tang Wulin's charge, he stepped sideways, sweeping his monstrous tail toward Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin's right hammer collided with his tail. A harrowing buzz made the competition stage vibrate intensely. Tang Wulin spun on the spot. With the spin, he dissipated as much force as he could from the lash of Long Yu's tail. At the same time, he raised the giant hammers in his hands in unison and swung them toward Long Yu. Tang Sect's secret technique, the disorder-splitting wind hammer. The disorder-splitting wind hammer dated back to the founding of Tang Sect. The founder, Tang San, had dominated the blacksmithing world with this hammering technique. During that time, his hammering technique was inherited from the Clear Sky clan. Initially, the Clear Sky clan was not keen on sharing the technique. However, due to the outstanding contributions Tang Sect had brought to the continent's Soul Master realm, the Clear Sky clan finally agreed to share this hammering technique with Tang Sect. That was how the technique survived to this day. Before this, Tang Wulin had only used the disorder-splitting wind hammer for forging purposes only. After he obtained the giant hammers from the Black Mecha, he had given it much thought. It was to figure out how to incorporate the disorder-splitting wind hammer into his battles. These giant hammers were undoubtedly the most suitable weapons. Although their size was huge and they were awkward, Tang Wulin had plans of his own. The giant hammers could not be swung downward due to their large size, but they could be swung horizontally. Tang Wulin had trained exclusively with the hammers for some time. The unique specialty of the disorder-splitting wind hammer was that it made use of the opponent's force. With each rotation, the rebounding force from the opponent would be melded with the user's own spinning force, resulting in an even stronger force. Tang Wulin's own strength was already fearsome. Currently, he had the addition of the disorder-splitting wind hammer and the pair of giant hammers in his hands. These were the basis of his fight against Long Yu. As expected, his body turned full circle and the hammers struck downward. Although Long Yu's strong and domineering body had moved forward and collided with them, a thunderous explosion erupted between Tang Wulin's hammers and Long Yu. The Soul Skill Mountain was extremely terrifying. Offense and defense became one action. This gave Long Yu an additional and powerful defensive strength. Even so, he paused slightly after being hit by Tang Wulin's hammers, while Tang Wulin himself was sent flying by the impact. His body was in the air and spinning at a high speed. As soon as he touched the ground, he charged toward Long Yu like a whirlwind. He continued unleashing his disorder-splitting wind hammer. Boom! There were seemingly blazing flames within Long Yu's eyes. A sense of frenzy appeared at the depths of his eyes. His right arm swayed in the air. A double-pointed lance appeared in his grasp. The double-pointed lance was 10 meters long and thick as a person's waist. It was completely brown and made of an unknown material. He grabbed the lance with both hands and swept horizontally all of a sudden. It collided with Tang Wulin's hammers. Boom! Many in the audience instinctively covered their ears. Almost everyone in the Colosseum had been looking forward to the match for a long time. However, only a few thought that this would turn out to be a battle of strength. The power displayed by Tang Wulin and Long Yu was almost superhuman. The audience were flabbergasted as they stared with their mouths agape. Tang Wulin used the disorder-splitting wind hammer technique, whereas Long Yu unleashed a set of lancing techniques. Both of them fought remarkably well. With their head-on collisions, they truly challenged each other. Every intense explosion made the competition stage vibrate greatly. The situation was unlike two humans battling, it was more like two giant beasts clashing. By means of his golden dragon body, the speed of Tang Wulin's disorder-splitting wind hammer together with its strength increased. When they first began battling, he was sent flying like a spinning top each time he collided with Long Yu. Now, with the aid of the disorder-splitting wind hammer, Tang Wulin's strength had gradually and surprisingly become on par with Long Yu's. The collisions between the two opponents increased in intensity. The densely packed bumps on Long Yu's body were like mountains constantly spattering rocks and other objects that turned into light before vanishing in the air. Enci sat at the platform. As he watched the scene on the competition stage, he felt out of sorts as well. He had never thought that there would be a person that was able to fight Long Yu head-on in terms of strength. Also, the cultivation base of his opponent was lower than Long Yu's. Shrek Academy's standing exceeded expectations, and it also had a reputation for nurturing monsters. For a 15-year-old to improve his strength to such an extent could only be described as a marvel. Nice, nice! Long Yu broke into laughter. Ever since he was accomplished in his cultivation base, he had yet to meet a match in terms of strength. Even some 7-ring or 8-ring assault system soul masters were unable to firmly suppress him in terms of strength. But currently, Tang Wulin was fighting him head-to-head. It was purely a collision of strengths between them. This match allowed Long Yu to fight without inhibition. When one was strong, one would hope to have an opponent that was equally strong. Only then could one unleash one's maximum power to constantly improve oneself. In fact, even Tang Wulin felt that he could fight without having to worry about restraining himself. The tremendous energy in his body had, under the absorption of the Golden Dragon King bloodline and the cultivation method of body sect, improved to a doughty extent. Even he was unaware as to what level his body's strength could attain. He had an inkling that his strength had exceeded 5,000 kilograms of force. Today, when he collided head-on with Long Yu, he felt the magical effect of his strength. The disorder-splitting wind hammer had stimulated his strength fully. With the addition of his two large hammers, he could feel the warmth of confidence that flowed through his whole body. The energy hidden within his bones, bloodline, and internal organs were completely aroused. His body, which was awakened for the second time through body sect cultivation, had unveiled his explosive energy perfectly. In the waiting area, Dai Yuien's gaze was slightly out of focus. When he lost the match a few days ago, his condition had deteriorated much since then. As the Crown Prince, how could he not have felt disappointed for losing such an important match? If he could do it all over, he would have donned his battle armor the moment he got on the stage, suppressed Tang Wulin with his greatest speed, and defeated him. Nonetheless, when he saw Tang Wulin battling with Long Yu now, he understood that the Tang Wulin he faced the other day was not an opponent who had given it his all. When Tang Wulin unleashed the disorder-splitting wind hammer strike after heavy strike, could he have blocked them even if he had donned his battle armor? He, too, had many spars with Long Yu. However, throughout those sparring sessions, Long Yu had never used any weapon. But today, Tang Wulin had just got on the stage, and he had surprisingly forced Long Yu into using his double-pointed lance. So, Long Yu had such a weapon ability as well. Although the lance was not used for agile attacks, the intensity of its dominance was something that he had witnessed for the first time in his life. With every thrust, the lance would split the air, merge seamlessly with Long Yu's own dominance and the Soul Skill Mountain, and together crash his opponent like a big crumbling mountain. However, when Tang Wulin faced Long Yu, his weapons turned into mountain-breaking hammers. He shattered the lofty mountains that came at him ceaselessly. Can I do this? Dai Yuyan asked himself. In terms of strength, even if he had worn his battle armor, he could not have accomplished this. There was only a handful who learned Tang Sect's disorder-splitting wind hammer because of its strength requirements that were overly high. Many viewed it as a hammering technique that was used in forging only. Besides, it was too difficult to control. Even among the blacksmiths, very few would opt to learn this. Dai Yuyan was also a Tang Sect disciple. Naturally, he had seen this hammering technique before. However, he never imagined that in this battle, the disorder-splitting wind hammer could surprisingly be used to unleash such a shocking effect. This was a battle style that could not be mastered by humans. It was impossible for a typical human soul master to attain Tang Wulin's level. However, what if it was a mecha? If one could control the mecha well, perhaps it would be possible to achieve it then. As the prince, not only did he have to think about his battle strength, but he had to consider the empire's future developments too. Martial power was the most important factor among them all. Tang Wulin's battle style had created an opportunity for him. Many a time, there were areas in the military whereby miracles were created by modifying the battle techniques and applying them to the military. When he thought about this, Dai Yuyang suddenly realized that he was no longer depressed. Instead, there was some anxiety regarding Tang Wulin's performance today. After all, losing a match because your opponent was too strong or because of your own mistakes was different altogether. Boom! Tang Wulin swung his hammers for the 36th time. He had made the Mountain Dragon King retreat for the very first time. Long Yu took 2 steps backward, the lance in his hands gave off a series of buzzes. Good, again. Long Yu howled furiously. His body swelled up and he took another step forward. This time, he used his lance as a long stick. He gripped his lance with both hands and struck down as he aimed for Tang Wulin's skull. The dragon roar from Tang Wulin's body sounded loudly, and the pair of giant hammers in his hand swung horizontally, his 37th strike. When he swung both his hammers this time, Tang Wulin felt hollow inside. A feeling that he could not control welled up inside him. Not good, I'm about to reach my limit. He who was intimately familiar with the disorder-splitting wind hammer felt that his body was almost at its limits. Under normal circumstances, with his current abilities, he could unleash the disorder-splitting wind hammer until the 54th strike. But what he had in his arms right now were not forging hammers. They were super war hammers that were hundreds of times heavier than forging hammers. Even though he was using this pair of war hammers with the golden dragon body, it was still taxing on his stamina and soul power. His arms began to ache and were going limp with fatigue. Every strike of the disorder-splitting wind hammer would drain his strength further. Tang Wulin knew that he was about to reach his limits and lose control. Boom! They collided again. This time, Long Yu was sent retreating backwards for a full 5 steps before he managed to steady himself. His arms were shaking. He raised his lance high and exposed his chest. On the other hand, Tang Wulin's body spun at high speed with the momentum he had built up. In the next instant, the pair of war hammers in his hands flew out of his grasps. Like meteors that chased after the moon, they flew straight toward Long Yu's chest. Currently, Long Yu was retreating at a blinding speed under the guidance of an immense force. He raised his arms and seemed to have no energy left to block those war hammers. At the 38th strike, their force was more powerful than before. If this pair of giant hammers struck true on his body, the audience held their breaths. They had seen the overwhelming force produced by the collision of the two opponents. If Long Yu took a direct hit from the pair of war hammers of humongous proportion, even he would have a hard time bearing the brunt of it. Rivers. Long Yu growled with a deep voice. The second soul ring on his body shone. In the end, he could not help but activate his second soul skill. Huge torrents surged forth from the skies and the ground. The entire competition stage had turned into a place where countless rivers intersected each other. One river washed against the giant hammers. Nevertheless, the strong flowing waters could not stop the hammers. The giant hammers passed through the water to appear in front of Long Yu's chest. Swamps. His third soul ring shone again. A dark brownish glow increased in size instantly. The forward charge of the giant hammers was finally slowed. Although they still passed through the swamps, by the time they landed on Long Yu's chest, their speeds had slowed down tremendously. Boom! Long Yu's colossal body was sent flying like a cannonball by the force of the impact. He flew straight for more than 100 meters to crash directly onto the soul barrier and rebounded off it. The double-pointed lance in his grasp stabbed the ground, and he did a somersault before landing steadily on his feet. By then, Long Yu's breathing had become slightly ragged. At the moment, Tang Wulin's body had just stopped spinning. His face was slightly pale, and he was taking deep breaths to regulate his breathing so that his bloodline and soul power could be spurred into recovering quickly. The collision, which seemed short, had directly brought the match to its climax. At least, on the surface, it seemed that Long Yu had taken many losses. He was surprisingly sent flying by Tang Wulin's hammers. Although it was uncertain if he was injured, those giant hammers could still make an impact. It might be just a scratch, but it would still not be pleasant. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.